guys, welcome to this video about my hair loss. It has been something that I've wanted to make for a very long time. I posted a story on my Instagram a couple of months ago, just finally showing everybody that, you know, I've been dealing with hair loss for about 11 years. It's been a really long time. It's not something that's just happened overnight for me. It's been a really gradual decline of hair. My hair at this point is just still continuing to shed. So if you guys are wanting to watch this video in the hopes that I have a solution, honestly, I don't really. I have a lot of techniques that might slow down the process, but I think it's really important to understand the journey of how I've come to this point and why I lose hair, because a lot of you guys are probably in the dark as well as to why you are losing hair. I'm not giving any medical advice because I'm not in a position to. However, just like I did a lot of research when I started losing hair, I found a lot of anecdotal cases where people would post blogs and make videos about why they lost hair, because it's not always as straightforward as getting a diagnosis. There's a lot of reasons as to why you lose hair, because everything in your body works in synergy. So if one thing's off balance, there's a chance that your hair will be gone with it. So this is really just to open your eyes as to how important your health is and how important your behavioral patterns are in life and how you approach life and eating and everything. You'll understand why I find this so important. It's something I'm really passionate about, except I don't talk about it a lot because obviously it's very personal, but I just think it's really important just to be open-minded about things like this, because you never know when it's going to happen to you. You don't know if it's going to happen to someone you love. I'm speaking about it like it's a really deadly disease, but it's not. But it can be really mentally straining and emotionally straining. So I hope you guys will just give me some time out of your day just to listen to this, because I promise you I'll make it worth your time. Just want to help as many people as I can, because I found a lot of the things I've read and watched online really helped me. So I just really want this to be my way of paying it forward. I don't want to keep this a secret. I'm not ashamed of anything, or not embarrassed anymore at least. But keep in mind, everything has, you know, spread across the span of 11 years. You don't come to a revelation of being fine with losing your hair. And before I go ahead, I just really want to say thank you to everybody who messaged me, who took the time out to tell me about their story, to offer me support, or tell me a bit about how they used to go through it and offer me advice and tips. It was really overwhelming with the amount of support that I received, and just for other people to even feel comfortable enough to message me about their own story, it's like very touching, and I just can't even explain in words how appreciative I am without getting emotional, because I know it's very personal. So I just want to encourage you to be open about it with your friends and your family, because if no one talks about it, it'll just be this forever secret of ours that just makes you feel so trapped and so lost. So if there's anything from today that I want you to take away from the video, it's that be open, be honest, because you never know who you're going to help, and you never know if it's going to help yourself as well. Before I go ahead, obviously all the information that I'm going to give you is just my personal thoughts and opinions. Nothing should be taken as medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a health professional in any way. This is my story and the journey that I've been on to try and find out the diagnosis and try to figure out how to fix my hair loss. But please do not use any of my advice. It's not even advice. Please do not use anything that I say as cold, hard medical advice. It is not the case, and it's really important that you actually speak to a health professional first before you make any decisions about how you want to address your hair loss. But please, just, it's pretty obvious, do not treat me like a medical professional. So to begin with, let's take a look at some photos of my hair loss and the state of my scalp at the moment. I pretty much avoided taking photos of my hair and my scalp or any progress pictures for the entire 11 years. In the past couple of months, it's actually been the first time in the 11 years that I've ever taken any photos of my scalp, because I actually want to see the actual progress of whether any of the products that I'm using are actually working. But for me, just avoiding the problem and not having to see it in cold hard evidence that my hair was actually falling out or my scalp was completely bald, it was just easier that way. I just didn't want to look at it, and I didn't want to accept it or acknowledge it. But that's obviously not very healthy, because you want to see if there has been any changes or anything like that. So I would recommend taking a photo. You don't have to stare at it every day, but at least you have some sort of reference or guide as to where you're going. But let's go ahead, take a look at some photos that I've saved, and you've probably seen some of them on Instagram when I posted a story. The second I lift up the top layer, you can see my scalp, and there's pretty much no hiding. Once you lift off a couple of strands from the top, I hate sitting under down lights, and I hate it when it's windy. I basically can't use any hair accessories. I can't even use like a clip without pretty much showing my bloody scalp. And as you can see, I've shot it from a couple of angles. I've done the left side, I've done the right side, but it's pretty bad on all sides. The worst side is on my left side of my head, because that's the way I used to style my hair. I used to have a part on the left side as opposed to the right. So there's a lot more tension on that side. And so you can see that it's a lot more empty. Now I part my hair in the middle just to give it a bit of a break. And obviously the middle of my hair is starting to empty out as well, which is great. A lot of you guys are probably wondering, like, Michelle, your hair doesn't even look that empty in most of the videos that you do, but I will show you, like, the second I lift up, like, I can run my finger through that, and the second I lift everything up, you can really see it. And when my hair is oily, it is 10 times worse, but my hair is freshly clean and freshly straightened. But usually if it's oily, you can really see it. It's like really bad. But you guys can sort of understand how well I hide it underneath these straightened locks, even on that side. This side's not, well, maybe it is just as bad. You can see quite a bit of scalp, which is not necessarily the norm for most people. They can hide their, like, scalp from the top pretty well. So we're pretty much going to backtrack to 2009, and this was when I was in year 9, so it's kind of easy to keep up with. I was 14 at the time, and I had a side part. So instead of being split in the middle, I had a side part on my left hand side. So I started to notice that my side part was getting a little bit more sparse, and I started to notice my hair was getting really frizzy, dry and brittle. And I just thought it was because I was, like, straightening my hair, even though I was, like, straightening it maybe like once every 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't even do it very often for school. My hair was a hot mess most of the time. And as I would shower, I felt like clumps of hair was coming out. Throughout that year, I just felt like it was getting worse and worse and worse. In hindsight, now that I think about it, it probably wasn't even that bad, because what I'm dealing with today is much worse, like 10 times worse. One of those things where you'll notice it yourself, but no one else that you know of will be able to see it on you. But I think that's really important. You are quite intuitive with your body. So if you know something's not quite right, usually you know very well. Especially if you have Asian hair. My hair used to be incredibly thick, long and dense. Like, if you think of, like, true Asian hair, that's what my hair used to be like. So when you know and you can feel that something's not quite right, no one can tell you anything else. That's all I'm going to say, is that you know your body best. And so if someone tells you that, no, it doesn't look like it's falling out, like, trust me, like, you know yourself best. But anyway, my hair would fall out in handfuls, and that side part was getting really, like, sparse, and I was getting, like, a bald patch in the corner here. Fast forward to 2011, I'm in year 11, and I just feel like it's progressively getting worse. It's not getting any better. You know, some people will go through bouts of hair loss. If you have any trauma or any health issues, 3 months prior, your hair will fall out the 3 months after, at the end of the cycle. So that's what a lot of people don't realize. Something really stressful in that time of your life, 3 months after, your hair will start to fall out. Now, this bit is going to be a little bit TMI, but it plays a really important part of this entire story. So for the guys that are watching, I don't think there are any guys watching this, but if there are, it's just a little bit TMI, but I think we're all adults here, so we can get over it. 2011, I am 16 at that point. I haven't gotten my period at all. And pretty much all my friends have already gotten their period. And I'm like, this is kind of weird, but, you know, I'd heard stories about people getting quite late, so I didn't really think too much about it. I went to a doctor's appointment probably for, like, a regular checkup, and I think at that point I did bring it up. I was like, you know, should I be getting my period because all my friends have their period? And the doctor at that point was like, no, it's fine. Like, look, you're 16. You know, there's still heaps of time, and a lot of people get it really late, like when they're 17 and 18. And I was like, okay, cool, whatevs. Again, I'm still kind of going through the motions of losing my hair, but it's just on the back burner at this point. It's just like, yeah, it's probably from the stress from school. And I finish year 12 and I start my first year of uni. Now, this is the first time that I'm like, maybe I should really go see a doctor about it, because I don't think this hair loss is normal. It's been going on for ages. Like, it's really not normal. And this is the point where I would tie my hair up and you could kind of see a few gaps. Like, it's nothing like what it is now. Like, right now, if I tie my hair up, no matter how much I comb it out to make it even, you can see gaps. Like, there's no denying it. But in the first year of uni, it was bad, but I could still somehow maneuver the hair strands so that I could cover my scalp. Now, as I mentioned before, didn't have my period when I was 16, and I'm 18, 19, my first year of uni, and I still don't have my bloody period. So I go back to the doctor and I say to her, you know, I don't have my period, like what the hell is happening? And she freaks out. She's like, oh my God, why don't you come to me earlier? Like, this is crazy, like blah, blah, blah. I can't believe you don't have it. I'm like, are you serious? Like, I did come to you and you didn't say shit. I feel like from 16 to 18, like it's not a very big gap. So obviously I didn't come to you because you told me to be fine. But anyway, like it was really frustrating. And then so she starts freaking out and then I start freaking out and it's just like, oh my God. And so it was like this scramble to do like all these tests, like blood work, ultrasound, like really invasive tests and stuff, which was not cute. Like at one point she was like, we just need to know if you're actually a boy inside, if you don't even have like a reproductive like organs. I'm just like, okay, cool, yeah. But long story short, we did an ultrasound and it pretty much revealed that I had cysts on my ovaries. Now, many of you will have heard about polycystic ovary syndrome. It is incredibly common. I mean, the last I saw, the statistics were 1 in every 10, but then I've also seen 1 in every 7 women have polycystic ovaries, and it's incredibly common. No one talks about it, and it's really alarming when no one talks about something that's so common as well, because I know so many girls that I've spoken to that'll be like, oh, I have polycystic ovaries, and they're like, oh my God, me too. But polycystic ovaries in short, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's PCOS, PCOS for short, however you want to say it. Polycystic ovaries is just like a major hormonal imbalance, a cyst on your ovaries. A lot of people find that they struggle to lose weight, they put on a lot of weight. Male pattern balding is a big one. Hair growth in areas that generally females wouldn't have hair growth, like you'd get really long sideburns or mustache, just really excessive hair growth. Mood swings, really incredibly painful periods, irregular periods, like the list goes on and on and on. That's why I always say to my friends, if your period is irregular, you need to go see the doctor. You know, just because you get a diagnosis doesn't mean that, you know, something's wrong. It's just a better way to manage yourself, because all these things will affect your fertility down the track, and the faster you find out whether you have PCOS is just going to make your life 10 times easier, and it's going to help you figure out why certain things are happening in your body, and it's just better not to be in the dark. So I always say to my own friends and my own family, if something's not quite right with your period, you just need to go to check it out. It's just better to not be in the dark about it. So I'm really passionate about female health in that sense. Your hormones and your reproductive system will affect everything in your body, and like I said at the very beginning of the video, your body works in synergy. You need to take care of it. And another side effect of having PCOS is acne as well, and troublesome skin. So if you're dealing with any of the symptoms that I have mentioned, I highly recommend you go to get checked by the doctor and just ask, you know, could this potentially be PCOS? Now, I just want to put it out there as well. I know I mentioned fertility and how important it is down the track. So you know, if you're going to be diagnosed, you know how to manage it down the track. But obviously I know that not everybody gives a shit about fertility, because I know not everyone wants kids, and that's totally fine. I'm not trying to say or imply anything, but even if you don't care about fertility, that's totally fine. But just your overall health and well-being, I think it's really important to know what's happening inside. And if something's off, just go get checked. So this is going to be the controversial part, but hear me out and understand where I'm coming from. This is not my advice to you. This is my experience. First thing the doctor did was put me on the pill. She said, this is going to regulate your period. It's just going to kickstart the hormones so that your body knows what to do, because obviously you have all the internal organs and the female organs to be producing a period, and she can't really seem to understand what's really wrong other than the cysts on the ovaries. But there aren't that many to be like too concerned about it. But I've definitely been diagnosed with PCOS at that point. But she pretty much prescribes me the pill and doesn't really tell me anything else. I'm kind of really thankful that's the way it worked out, that I was never given that much information about it. I feel like I'm shitting all over my doctor right now. She's a very nice person. Yeah, it just gave me the real drive and push to do my own research, and I'm really thankful for that till this day, because it's opened up my eyes, and it's also just given me an open mind. And I think that's so important. If there's anything you need to live by, it's just to have an open mind. She put me on the pill, and I remember after I finished the first tray and the first cycle, I finally got my period. And on that day, it was the last day of my first semester of uni, and I was doing a presentation for the scarf that I had made. And that was the first day of my period. And I just want to clarify that when you're on the pill and you do bleed, it's not a period. That's not a real period. But anyway, I'm sure most of you guys know that if you're already on the pill. I was doing a presentation, and I had already gotten it earlier that day, so I knew that it was already happening, but during the presentation, oh my God, like, I don't think I've ever felt that kind of pain before. I thought I was about to give birth. Like, honestly, I can imagine that's what giving birth would be like. I'm pretty sure at one point I excused myself to go to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I was like white, purple, white, same thing. And I looked horrendous. Like, I was in so much pain that I had turned purple. It's just like, I've always wondered, like, people complain about like period pain all the time. And in that moment I was like, holy shit, like, this is wild. This is nothing I've ever felt before. And in that moment I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? I've been periodless for all these years and finally, like, I have my period and it is like a nightmare, literally a nightmare. I finished that presentation, somehow managed to make it through, and I was like crippled, like in pain, like just like crawling out of the classroom pretty much. And I'm pretty sure I almost crawled to the chemist. Like, I was in that much pain. Like, I was just walking with like a hunchback and pressing the pedestrian light. I got to the chemist and I asked for the pain reliever, and then I went to the Macca's next door and I asked to buy a bottle of water, and I pretty much cracked open the bottle of water, took the Naturopathy, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I haven't had it since that day. And I just lay on the table and I called my mum to come pick me up, and I pretty much lay on the McDonald's table until she came and picked me up. Like, that's how ratchet I was. Like, I was in so much pain, I just didn't give a shit. Like, it was just like the worst feeling in the world. So to anybody who does experience really terrible period pain, like, I completely understand. Like, it's like the worst pain. It's like debilitating. Like, it's honestly excruciating. And for people that don't understand it, it's like when you're in pain, like, that's all you can think about. Like, anything that was important to you before just doesn't matter in that moment. And to people that push through, like, you're incredible. Like, honestly, you are incredible, and I don't know how you do it, because I know people that have been dealing with it for years and years and years, and that's all they've ever known. I had to deal with it once or twice maybe, because I ended up taking another tray of the pill and I never took it again. But dealt with it once or twice, and I just never want to experience that ever again in my life. So for those of you who have been dealing with it for your entire life, like, I bow down to you, because that shit is wild. As I went through my second tray of the pill, which was the second month, I was like, one, I can't deal with this pain. Like, I cannot physically go through this again. And then I did more and more research, and I was trying to figure out, like, how do I deal with this without the pill? The more research I did, the more I felt really uncomfortable using the pill as a treatment for this issue. I just felt like it wasn't doing what it was intended to do, or what the doctor intended it for it to do. I felt like it was just a cover-up, and till this day I still stand by that. But I felt like for me it was just a cover-up of all the symptoms, and it wasn't really actually fixing the issue or managing the issue. The thing with the pill is that it tends to cover up all symptoms of polycystic ovaries and endometriosis. And then so the second you start to come off the pill, when you decide to have kids, or if you've just had enough of the side effects of having the pill, it tends to reveal a myriad of underlying issues that have been there the whole time that the pill has uncovered. I just felt really uncomfortable continuing to use the pill as a treatment for polycystic ovaries. After the second tray, I suppose, I finished, from that point onwards, I never touched it again. But that's, again, just my experience. I don't want to come across or rub anyone the wrong way. I definitely do think the pill has a place. It has a time and place. From this point onwards, I started to do my research and figure out how can I manage the symptoms of PCOS and how I can better manage it myself through lifestyle changes. And I had read so many blogs, like, honestly, in every spare time, every spare second I had away from uni or work, that's what I dedicated my time to. I finally could make that link to why I was losing hair, and it was because there was an increase in testosterone. When you have PCOS, that increase in testosterone has a big connection to hair loss, excess facial hair growth, and excess hair growth all over the body as well. So from all the research that I did, I decided to make lifestyle changes. I knew I had to start working out. I had to manage my weight, even though I was not overweight. I just knew that working out would just keep my body going and just make me thrive a little bit more. And I just kind of hoped that working out would kind of fix me, to be honest with you, because all we ever talk about is how health and fitness is amazing. So from that point onwards, and this was 2013, Since 2013, I've never looked back. My regime has changed over the years, but in the initial year that I started working out, I would work out like 6 to 7 days. And we'll talk about how unhealthy that is a little bit later on, but I just want to briefly discuss, the changes I decided to make in that year to better myself. I changed my diet. So my whole life, my diet has always been very restrictive. I've always been obsessed. And when I say obsessed, I mean obsessed with managing my weight. I wasn't eating that much already, but I decided to delve more deeply into what was considered healthy. I always thought I was healthy, but what I really was restrictive eating and binging on the weekend, which is the most unhealthy thing. Like cheat days can turn into a terrible, terrible cycle of unhealthy eating habits that can truly last like a lifetime. I discovered that dairy was serving me no purpose, and it was really hard to kick it out of my diet, to be honest with you. I stopped eating dairy, but I would kind of save it for the weekends when I would have cheat days. Dairy is very inflammatory to the body. Like when your body has inflammation in it, things just don't function and cells start to sort of die out. Like healthy cells can no longer sustain themselves. I'm not pushy with anything, and I want you guys to understand that. What I tell you is just to open up your mind. And I know dairy is a big part of our food culture, and I completely understand, because trust me, I was like a cheese lover. I grew up having a cup of milk every night. It was just very comforting. But if there's one thing you want to get rid of, I promise you there is no research backing dairy that it is good. And if there is any new information about dairy being good, it's because it's funded by money. I'm not going to keep talking about it just in case anybody feels uncomfortable here. And so, as I mentioned before, even though I was clean eating, I was developing really restrictive eating habits. I would make myself feel really guilty if I had like really bad food. It really started to affect me. I then developed IBS. People think IBS is developed over time because of really bad dietary choices, or it's just genetics. For a lot of people, it's from the excessive amount of cortisol in the body. The cortisol is pretty much stress hormone that runs through the body. Think of fight or flight. When you're put in a situation where your body is so stressed out, it just releases adrenaline and you get a surge of cortisol running through your body. And so you're constantly putting your body through a state of stress when all you can fixate on is food. Let's just say that was one of the worst years of my life. I couldn't even leave my house for 2 years. Like almost 2 years, I was like broken. Literally, this is TMI, but I would have like a mango and I would probably be on the toilet for like 2 days. I wouldn't even have a whole mango. I would have half a mango. Anything I would eat, even if it was just rice, which is like the most bland, unflavored, like gentle food, my stomach would just not be able to tolerate it. And it just went on for a year and a half, and I pretty much couldn't go anywhere, but somehow I still managed to push myself to the gym, and I would go home and feel really sick. In the peak and in the height of that, like I was feeling so sick, but I was like pushing myself to like lose weight or keep my weight controlled, even though I never really put on that much weight. And I was over exercising 5 to 6 times a week, sometimes 7, constantly guilt tripping myself with foods that I was eating, and it's just like a vicious cycle. So you can imagine how much strain this is putting on your body. So I'm now dealing with polycystic ovaries, my hair's still falling out, and I'm dealing with IBS now. So I'm like trying to figure out what the hell I do. For some reason, then I move on to counting macros. And I felt like for once, counting macros gave me so much control over everything that was happening. I felt a lot of solace in counting macros, but it became an obsession, as you would expect. It was very hard to not weigh things. I could literally, and I'm sure a lot of people that do count macros and do it for fitness or do it for like competitions would understand what it's like. You can scoop out some oats, chuck it on the scales, and you know exactly how much it's going to be, or you know exactly how much to scoop out so that it's perfectly 100 grams. Like I got to that point where I knew everything inside and out. I knew how much everything weighed without even having to pull the scales out. Even though I did, I would always guess, and I was perfect every time. Like it was an obsession. Like I got really good at it, I'm not gonna lie. Soon after that, I delved into low carb, which helps you manage your insulin levels. Insulin levels. I did it for, I can't remember how long I did it for. It didn't really help anything. My hair was still falling out. Like it just didn't really do anything. And then so I jumped into paleo. Now, funnily enough, I do have good things to say about paleo. It really pushes you to focus on non-refined, non-processed foods. I actually really enjoyed it, and I felt like it really calmed and soothed my stomach. I felt really good on it for the first year, and I pushed it out to a year. I did low carb paleo for a whole year, and in hindsight, that is just so unsustainable. No one should be doing low carb for that long. Well, I don't think you should be. Your body shouldn't be in a state of ketosis for that long. By the end of that year, I was absolutely miserable. I felt like the hair on my body grew like excessively. Like I felt really gross. I felt really grey and really dull. And so in the midst of me trying to figure out how to combat my hair loss and how to better my health so that potentially I could naturally balance out my hormones, I'd stumbled across like a plant-based diet many times. Had stumbled across a lot of people who had said being vegan really helped them, but I never considered it because obviously I had no interest in it. All these things I'm talking about really span across 11 years. I don't have exact timestamps for it, but my first introduction to naturopathy. My auntie, who had been dealing with a lot of health issues, introduced me to her naturopath one day. It was really out of the blue, and I had never understood the concept of Chinese medicine or naturopathy. Like, it had never crossed my mind to even consider it as a treatment or anything like that. And so this was just like, whoa, it's just a lot for me to deal with in one day. But anyway, I sat down with her. She went through everything. She asked me what I was like as a child, what my eating habits were, whether I dieted, ever had any eating disorders. And it was really like confronting because never had I thought that any of those had to do with anything that I was dealing with now. So the fact that she was asking me was very like polarizing. It was just like, whoa. Everything she asked me about and everything she spoke to me about has just stuck with me till this day. After that consultation, she pretty much told me that my body really never had a chance to fully develop because of how early on I had developed like a terrible eating habit and relationship with food, and I had developed such a restrictive eating pattern so early on in life. It's pretty much like a domino effect. All that restrictive eating stopped the development of, my body, and that's why I was not getting a period, and all the stress levels in my body was causing a lot of strain on my stomach as well. After meeting with this naturopath, I did take a round of herbs that she gave me, but she lived really far away from me. She lived like an hour or two away from me, and it was really hard to maintain that relationship because when you have a naturopath, you guys are constantly in communication and you're telling her or him your symptoms and you're telling them how you're feeling and if anything's changed since taking the herbs. And when you're so far apart, it's just really hard to keep that communication open. So I pretty much, it just died off. I never really ordered more herbs after that first round, so I couldn't really say that my body or anything had changed for the better, but that seed had already been planted in my head. Like, all that information she gave me really had my mind ticking like it had never before. Understanding my body on a deeper level in the sense that my past behaviors were affecting the hormonal balance of my body, which was then in turn affecting my digestive system and then my hair loss. Like, it all just started like making sense. Everything started clicking in place. And obviously, like, some months you're more motivated and some months you're just so depleted of any emotional energy to even give a shit about changing anything in your life. You kind of just accept that this is what it's going to be like forever. And then sometimes I would be like, no, I've got to do this. Like, I've got to do it for myself. And then you would kind of hop on the bandwagon again and try to figure out what the hell is going on. I just want you to understand, like, it's not all smooth sailing. Like, it's really, really hard to try and figure out what the hell is going on with your body when you're not getting results. And then so as we're speaking about waves, I thought, all right, you know what? Maybe let's go see a Western health professional. Maybe I can get a proper diagnosis because it's been a while since I've had a diagnosis of any kind. And then I went to see a dermatologist, pretty much paying $400. And I went in and he told me, well, you know what? It's just hair loss. Like, you're just going to have to deal with it. And for the first time ever, someone told me they pretty much couldn't help me. But I think I was just really disappointed by the way he handled it. He was really not empathetic. It was just a really cold meeting. And I remember leaving that appointment and I sat in the car and I just started crying. I feel like that was the first time like I couldn't actually hold my tears in. I feel like I felt truly defeated. But anyway, it took me about like a week to bounce back from that appointment and to sort of try and be optimistic again. And I remember my mum even saying like, we'll find a way, like, don't worry about it. Like, I know he said this, but let's find a way. And I think that was the only thing that was getting me through it. Within a week, I just dusted off my clothes, got back up on my feet, and I became really optimistic again. So what the story I'm about to tell now is not really back to the appointment with the dermatologist. I'm not really sure roughly where this sits in the timeline. I just remember one night, cold turkey, I was over it. My stomach was still irritated from doing low carb paleo, and I just went cold turkey plant-based. I kept watching videos. Prior to that, I had been watching videos for months and months and months, and nothing intrigued me more than plant-based videos and advice and how they regulated their hormones through plant-based diet. At this point, I had nothing to lose. I felt like I had done everything under the sun, obviously except for take my doctor's instructions and take a pill, but I knew that was never going to be an option, so that was completely off my checklist. From that day of going cold turkey vegan, I have never looked back. It has been 4 years. It has changed my life in so many ways, and I'm not trying to preach to you at all, because it's not really about saying that plant-based diets work for everybody, because I know for a fact that some people get really sick on plant-based diets, especially if you're not doing it in the correct way. Your under eating is a big one. But for me, it just changed my mentality, it changed my mindset. After I transitioned into my plant-based diet for about 6 months to about a year into it, I had realized, like, holy shit, like all the issues I had with my bowel movements, everything like that had just completely disappeared. And I don't think it's truly from transitioning to a plant-based diet, but it's because I'm no longer stressed about what I ate. I knew that the plant-based diet was feeding my body whole foods, and I was more concerned about nourishing my body, and I no longer was concerned about the portion size. And I knew that if I was eating whole foods, fresh foods, I didn't have to worry about putting on weight. That gave me so much comfort that I kind of naturally just dropped the whole ideal of counting calories, counting macros. I just let it go. As I'm getting better on the IBS end and everything starts to sort of settle down and calm down, I still obviously was dealing with severe hair loss, and I was still not getting my period. And I decided, you know what, like, I have nothing to lose. Once again, I'm gonna go see a naturopath, and I went to see Tina. So Tina is an incredible naturopath, and I will leave her details down below, because I have been asked many times throughout the year by friends and family for her contact details. It kind of just feels like you're seeing a doctor, but someone who has a more like intuitive side. She pretty much told me the exact same things the first naturopath told me. She said, all my behavioral patterns early on in my life pretty much affected the way my body developed, which meant that my body could no longer produce a period because it was constantly in survival mode. And I started taking these herbs, and they're really disgusting. I'm not gonna lie, it's really gross, but it'll be worth your time. So I took it for about a year, and she had said to me that it would take a very long time for my body to be able to kickstart this period on its own, because it had been so long that I hadn't been able to produce my own period. I sort of reached that 1 year mark, and I kind of felt really defeated because I still hadn't gotten my period, and I had spent a lot of money on these herbs. And that's another thing as well. If you guys plan on seeing a naturopath, just know that you're investing a lot of money and you're investing a lot of time. It's not a quick fix, but just in the way that most health problems occur, they tend to be built up over time, and to fix them, they take a very long time to sort themselves out. But that is a process of natural medicine, as opposed to the model of Western medicine where it's about quick fixes. And I do believe that there is a space and time for Western medicine because it saves lives. So it had been a year, and I felt really discouraged because I had spent all this money and all this time taking these herbs, and there was still no results. So then I went on to see a new GP because I was hoping for a fresh diagnosis. I didn't really want to go back to my old doctor at the time because I just felt like she would just give me the same diagnosis, and sometimes you just have to see someone new for a fresh beginning. So I went to see a new GP, and she pretty much ran through all the tests that my old GP did. She did ultrasounds, blood work, and whatnot. Refers me to a gynecologist. And so when I went to see that gynecologist, she pretty much told me what my very first doctor told me. She's like, you just need to be on the pill, gave no explanation, had no reason as to why my body was this way, just didn't really seem to understand what I was going through. She said, you just need to be on the pill, and when you want to have kids one day, just come back and we'll just put you on some other hormones. I'm just like, well, I don't really want to take synthetic hormones. Like, there's got to be a way to fix this. Like, this isn't like a life or death situation. My gynecologist and my GP, I said to her, like, what are your thoughts on like naturopathy? Surely like your hormones can be balanced by lifestyle changes and natural medicine. Both of them they were literally like blown away that I would even ask that. It was as if I was making a joke. I just feel like if you're the one that can't provide a solution or an explanation, I don't think you should be the one laughing. Like, she gave me the pill, I never took it, obviously, because it's up to you guys to do your own research. I can't provide you all the facts, and I don't think it's ethical or responsible of me to try and push information on you. It's your responsibility to find out what's right and what's wrong for your body. This time around, I go back to my naturopath so determined, because I'm like, everybody's telling me that this is not going to work, but I know deep down that it's going to work. I go back in, take the herbs for another year, for another freaking year. And lo and behold, one day I'm sitting on my white chair, my white fabric chair, and I get my period. Like, in that moment, I knew that when I had it, I'd proven everybody wrong. Everybody that gave up, who didn't have a solution for me, and who just couldn't help me, I knew that I'd proven them wrong. And I knew deep down that this would work. I just had to be patient. So I'm sure you guys have wondered why I have gone on this tangent. And I'm going to start tying everything back together as to how this connects to hair loss. So in that moment that I got my period, I finally knew, like, my hormones are finally balanced so that I can finally just have my freaking hair back. Like, it's just like, I could have done everything under the sun, gotten laser treatments, used hair products, used everything under the sun, and never gotten my hair back because my hormones were out of whack. When your hormones are out of whack, your hair will be the first thing to disappear most of the time. The things that just turn to shit most of the time when your body is in such a high level of stress is your hair, your nails, your skin, because those things aren't required to survive. Your body just shuts down those parts of your system to be in survival mode, and just doesn't really need to replenish those parts of your body because it doesn't need that part to survive. Fast forward to what my life is now. My focus is truly finally to be able to grow my hair back, knowing that I've done everything that I can do to balance my whole body so that there should be no reason my hair's not going to grow back. So the problem with having really long-term hair loss is that the entire hair follicle falls out, and when you're kind of at that point, usually hair doesn't grow back. So if you guys really want to get on top of your hair loss, I suggest you really pay attention to it very early on, because once it's fallen out, it's really hard for it to grow back. I really, at this point in time, don't ever expect my hair to grow back at its full potential at what it was once upon a time, but I really want to see what can grow back. If anything, even if like my hair is, say, at 20% depletion at this point, if I can even bring it back up to 40%, like, I will live my life happily. Really fast forwarding again to this point in time right now, I still don't regularly get my period. At this point, it's like every 2 months, which is amazing because before it was every 3 months, but it really is a gradual process. I take a lot of supplements. I take the herbs consistently. Really, it has been an emotional roller coaster as I have guided you through this journey. Even though I'm just giving you the facts and the information, emotionally, it is been incredibly taxing. So anybody who is going through it out there, like, I am with you and I completely understand. It is so taxing. I feel like what people don't understand about hair loss is that being female, or choosing to be female, because I'm trying to include everybody in this, choosing to be female or being born as a female, your feminine identity, as much as people don't really talk about it, it has a lot to do with your long hair. I just felt like a piece of me was like missing for so long, and it still is today because I still don't have a lot of hair on my head. But I think I want to help people understand why female hair loss is such a big issue and why we should talk about it. It's because your female identity has so much to do with how long your hair is. It's just such a big part of who you are and how you identify as being female. Like, I think that's what affected me for so long, is that I just didn't feel feminine. And every time I would look around me, my friends would have incredibly beautiful and luscious hair. And as social media came through into our life, like, all I would see was beautiful, thick hair. And like, being Asian, like, pretty much all the girls around me have this incredible, luscious, thick hair. Even when I do my clients' makeup these days, like, I am always so envious of their hair, and I think how lucky they are. That's the part of the aspect of losing hair that I want to explain, is that Your female identity has so much to do and is so very closely connected to your hair. And you don't even think about that until you start to lose your hair. And I know that there's more to life than feeling beautiful, but I think being able to appreciate yourself is a big part of being happy as well. And I think I was just so miserable in that sense because I felt like I was lacking that aspect of who I was and or who I wanted to be. I feel very optimistic. That's why I feel like I'm finally ready to talk about it. I probably would not have been able to talk about it even 2 years ago. It was a very deep, dark secret of mine, and it shouldn't have been, but it's just really hard when you're really in the thick of it. I finally started really committing to all the products that I've used to really promote the hair growth or hold onto the hair. I'm actually going to make a separate video on all the products that I use because I know not everybody cares about the journey of hair loss and people just want to know about the products. It's going to be more straight to the point, what I use, what I'm doing right now, what I've used in the past. But this one was really just to open up your eyes to what my hair loss journey was all about and how I've gotten to the point that I've gotten to now. I know it's a bit disappointing. There's no real major happy ending. I can't say like, oh my god, look at my hair, like it's gone back to 90% of what it used to be like, but there is no major happy ending. I hope that if you're going to take anything away from this, whether you're dealing with hair loss or whether you're not dealing with it and you're just curious about the story, be open-minded about health issues, be open-minded to people that are going through things, be open to your own issues. You know, I think you trap yourself in a bubble when you don't speak about things and it can feel really isolating and it can feel really dark. But if there's anything I want you to take away from this, it's not to go plant-based, it's not to see a naturopath, it's not for any of that. It's just to feel open from the bottom of my heart. I just want to say, if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I have just tried to make this as informative and to the point as I could, so I hope this is just something for someone out there.